teacher today is Reverend Thomas, and I'm sure that he has got some wonderful words, some wonderful stories to share with us, and I will allow him to take the stage.
Thank you for that nice introduction, Reverend Philip. Divine Creator, Father, Mother God, we come before you once again with open hearts and open minds, seeking thy divine wisdom and guidance in our lives. May that which comes through your speaker this day be for the highest and best good of each one that will hear this message. Amen and amen. Good morning. I had a writing session this morning to introduce a subject for us for our discussion today. Spirit indwells it all, everything, all that moves and all that doesn't. Life, as we define it, springs forth at every opportunity. Plants breathe in carbon dioxide and exhale oxygen. Humans and animals do the opposite. Two gases, both deadly and life-giving at the same time. Indwelled by spirit, life finds a way to coexist. The giant redwoods in Northern California are older than Christianity. They grow taller than the laws of physics allow. Sap is the lifeblood of plants and moves by capillary action, the drawing of a liquid up a tube. This is why we put cut flowers in water, and the sooner the better. The giant redwoods developed a second system for the highest parts that draws moisture in through its leaves and feeds the tree in a reverse process. Life finds a way. A four-eyed fish that walks on its pectoral fins on the mudflats and breathes in oxygen with primitive lungs. Two eyes see better in the air, and two eyes see better underwater. Life finds a way. Our experiences are limited by our beliefs. Religion is great at claiming profound experiences as their own. We have the capacity and the option to step back for a broader view, to accept the experiences special to us as universal. The us and them test is it inclusive or dividing? In the 80s, we sat in several channeling sessions by a blue-eyed woman whose eyes turned brown when Ramashu came through. Her voice and mannerisms became very male. It was a very convincing demonstration. Ramashu told us he was part of the White Brotherhood. But when asked about his name, he stated that the names were for our benefit. We expect identification by name and as association. He went on to tell us, in spirit, we identify each other by energy patterns. The profound experiences I had during this awakening period in my life caused me to divide the world. I was learning the secrets of the universe, and serving spirit could not happen in the mundane world. It took me another couple of decades to stop separating and to begin to integrate it all. And in one writing session, they told me directly, Thomas, it's all spiritual. We each have our particular path that has brought us to where we are. And some of the incredible experiences that we have in that path have touched us and made us want more and led us in a particular direction. But I see ever more clearly that the us and them test is critical. That if what it is that I believe is limited to a group and is not a universal experience, I just don't see it clearly yet. I just don't see it completely yet. I see it in a valid way, but in a valid way that is limited to the way I experienced it. And we have a tendency as human beings to separate ourselves into groups of like-mindedness, of similar experiences. And in the process, it is too easy to invalidate the experiences of others. Our history is full of religious practice doing exactly that. And to the extreme, the worst travesties, the worst atrocities man can inflict on man happened with the blessing of a religious group, or was promoted by a religious group, was sanctioned by a religious group. And the only way that happens is if there's a them. It does not happen when there's only us. Perhaps you know what kosher means. Part of the kosher, that is the religious rules by which things like animal slaughter take place, include the requirements for a rabbi to be present, or they may have someone else that is assigned to that task. But there are prayers involved. And one of the critical aspects is that the animal must not be frightened or endure pain. I can sign up to that. I think that's a very good idea. Native Americans and other indigenous groups had a worldview that saw the spirit of the Great Spirit in everything. And they talked about the spirit of the animal, and they felt the relationship and the connectedness with the animal life, and understood what a privilege it was to receive the benefit of an animal giving its life. And they felt like there was a cooperation there, and they felt like it was their requirement to be grateful for that, to thank the animal for that, to not waste any of that, to use it all. There was a universal connectedness. There was no them, it was only us. The Aborigines in Australia lived in similar ways. When they needed water, they prayed and expected that the the Great Spirit, or whatever their term for that is, would lead them there, and it would happen. And when they needed food, they expected the Great Spirit would bring what they were to eat in their presence, and that animal would offer itself to be taken. And again, they had that reverence, they had that feeling of connectedness. They were one with the world, not another them. It's a lesson we can draw from. We don't have to live an Aboriginal life, but we can have the same understanding, and we can look at what it is that we believe and perhaps give it the us and them test. Does it unite us or does it divide us? Does it make this, whatever it is I believe, different than everyone else? Or am I just believing or understanding a principle in a unique way? And there's room for others to understand that principle in a different way. In spiritualism, our mediums make a connection with some unseen intelligence in a variety of ways. The way that we experience that, I'm going to suggest, is not the only way. It is a way. If you listen to what authors of novels will often talk about, this idea comes to them, and when they start to build it and they start to create characters, they will describe something to the effect that the characters almost came to life. The characters presented themselves. The characters told the author about themselves. And in that creative process, where I believe that we all are connected to a higher intelligence, a higher source, this thing happens. And you don't have to, it does not have to be couched in spirituality, is what I'm going to suggest. I believe that happens even if you're an atheist. It happens. It is there. It does not require belief. It does not require a particular language. Can we learn to do it better? Of course. When we connect with the process, we believe in the process, we see what's happening, we can learn from teachers and we can get better at what we do. And it can be done in very specific ways. This does not deny any of that. But it can help us to see where it may be happening in a different way to different people. The people in was apostolic churches focus on one way, as far as I know, and that primarily is speaking in tongues. And you have two kinds of people: the people that speak in tongues and the people that interpret what that means. Is it a legitimate way of making a connection? I have to presume that it is. It's very different from what I do or any of those that I know in spiritualism do. But it is a way of doing that. The Sufis, if you've ever seen the Sufis are the mystical part of Islam, and maybe you've heard of the whirling dervishes. They're part of the Sufism, and they They spin, and the men wear these skirts that fly out when they spin, and they kind of look like an upside down funnel, a little bit in their shape. But anyway, they twirl and twirl and twirl until they get into some sort of altered state. It is a way of making that connection. Others use peyote and uh, some sort of drug induced experience. Another way of making a connection, because I believe that the way the universe is created, that these things are universal, and there are multiple ways of getting there. And it has nothing to do with which way is better. It is just accepting that it can be done in many ways. And that when I find myself disconnected from another group or person that I may be judging, because without judgment, I can't separate. I have to face that fact. That I step back and realize that, like my mother used to half jokingly say, there's nobody here but us chickens. I think that's the punchline from an old joke. But it is true. And in the incredibly divided world where we find ourselves today, all you got to do is turn on the news, and things couldn't seem to be more polarized. But that polarization only exists because people are willing to believe in a them and not seeing us all as an us, and that we are in this together. And when I see you as with a connection to me, I will certainly treat you much better than I will if I see you as different from me. Life will find a way, and we are here because of that. We have developed a brain that requires 3/4 of our blood supply. Think about how incredible that is all by itself. Part of the reason we're different from the great apes that are far more powerful than any human. But evolution developed this brain for a purpose. And will only achieve the greatest potential of that purpose when we integrate into the whole, when we are part of it all. There is no them, there's only us. And I thank you for your kind attention.
And that is what spiritualism, the high teachings of spiritualism, is about. Coming together. Doesn't make a difference what religion, what path you choose to be on, but the recognition that progress is eternal. Are there any other comments or questions for Reverend Thomas? Excellent, excellent job. Any thoughts you might like to share with us, Sharon?
Lots to think about. I mean, I liked it a lot. I did. It was good. Um, it seems like these days our life it is us and them. It's all around you. Everywhere you go, it's us and them. Every news item, it's us and them. Um, Politically and all of that. It's a diet that's right in front of you all the time. So learning how to separate that and look at all of that in a different way is a real challenge. Because I mean, I find myself doing it too. I just do. It's part of being human, I guess. But um, it's lots to think about. Like I said, it's food for thought and contemplation.
It's a tool,
Hmm.
the us and them test.
Hmm.
Does it divide us? Does it unite us? Is a way of maybe simplifying decisions that are more complex. What do I support? You know, when an idea is presented to us that sounds good, we can run the us and them test about it. And say, okay, uh, it's it's an incomplete idea. Doesn't mean it's bad, but it's incomplete if it's not a win-win. If it doesn't move us closer to coming together. Does it move us further away into more separation, or does it move us? Because everything that we get involved with isn't going to be the complete answer, but just knowing the direction that it's moving us can help us to make a decision and in what we support and what we don't,
Hmm.
and supporting our energetic support is probably more important than anything. But certainly things like, voting when it's time to do that, um, we that is important too. Um, and again, it's like that's part of it's all inclusive. It's not all spiritual. That the mundane is important too.
Hmm.
This is where we dwell. This is where we live for this experience, and we need to participate in that and be guided by the highest guidance that we're allowing ourselves to have.
Politics is not divisive. No matter how it appears, politics is not divisive. People are divisive. Politics, in its essence, is about doing what is fair for everyone.
Someone made a comment of something about that people just mess up everything. So there's a lot of good ideas, but if it wasn't for the people,
And that's a good analogy because when we apply the principles of nature, which is what supports spiritualism, are these principles of nature, and they're too numerous to name. We stumble across them. But this division, you don't see it in nature. You see these
no.
tribes of gorillas or primates or these packs of coyotes and wolves and such. You know, the skirmishes we see within them are exactly that. They're skirmishes. Those communities, after a skirmish, are more likely to reconcile with each other than we are. A pack of dogs is more cruel than a pack of wolves. And that's nature. That's in nature. What's the difference? The pack of dogs have been domesticated and they emulate civilization as we know it. The pack of wolves, they emulate nature. Think of it as the hunter gatherer thing. They emulate nature. The Aborigines that Reverend Thomas mentioned, that's what they emulate.
If you haven't seen it, it's you can find it on the internet. But the results of introducing wolves back into Yellowstone Park and the profound effect it had on the whole ecosystem, where the balance was returned, and how it affected plant life, how trees came back, and beavers dammed the river and changed all of that. The birds came back that had historically been there. The different fish that thrive in ponds where the water flow is not so fast, and the whole system balanced and got better because the top predator was reintroduced. And that to me, that is a profound example of exactly what Reverend Philip was referring to here, is that nature is good for the whole. You can't just look at the what may be difficult for us to watch, the wolves taking down an elk or something. What if we understand it to greater detail? We know that is a weakling in the group, and that's the ones that get called out, and it makes the herd stronger. And but nature balances things fine, and in these, as we're having all of the debate about climate change, I have to be reminded that the planet does not need mankind. The planet will survive just fine. Mankind is not a necessary part of the planet doing well, and we would do well to understand that. Human beings we can be too big for our britches, as another thing my mother used to say at times.
Any thoughts you'd like to share, Beth?
I was just given the picture of a tapestry, a huge tapestry of life or nature, with the living things on it, and that the I don't know what a tapestry maker is called, but the sewer has to be very, 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 very close to the fabric as the various colored threads are woven in and out. And this goes back to I think Reverend Thomas's thing. You got to step back and see the forest for the trees. But it's if we think of ourselves as all these individual threads, but we're united in this gorgeous tapestry. I think I'll have to hold that as an image to use, I think, in some future meditations. That's what I was struck with.
That's beautiful.
It's a beautiful message.
Would you like to wrap it up, Reverend Thomas?
I will accept the final words that Beth just shared with us. It's a beautiful message, and I can't top that. So thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Reverend Thomas. That was an excellent lesson, excellent teaching. And I want to thank all of you for your participation, donating your thoughts. It's you that make all of this interesting.